Hey guys! How are we doing? I'm doing my Jojo pose. I am so excited for this. I love Super High Patch Wolf's videos on why you should watch. I've done reactions to part 1, 2, 3, 4. Loved it. I love Jojo's anyway. Anything discussing Jojo's and why it's amazing is just like, ah! I'm so excited to see this that I could have spent time with my girlfriend this evening, and I was like, no, babe. I gotta do a reaction to why you should watch Jojo's Part 5 from Super High Patch Wolf. Priorities. Just for you. Like, I was at work, didn't realise this was up, reading the comment section of my recent videos, and I was like, you can react to this. I was like, it doesn't exist. Go on subscription feed. So, right, enough of me talking, because Part 5 is so good. I love Part 5. I loved it. Let's do this. Why you should watch Jojo's Part 5. Do it. Oh, I got Jojo's hat, but Jojo's cap.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you ever do a video for Part 5, I will achieve heaven.
My
Who else is
gosh.
here to wait for why you should watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind?
This
why
guy.
you should watch JoJo's Part 5?
Yeah, man.
For the why you should watch JoJo's Part 5.
Where the heck is the Part 5?
It's right here.
Maybe you should do your job as
waiting for why
Maybe you should do your job.
Bizarre Adventure Part 5 or
God.
where's my
Scared.
entry?
Frankly,
Right now.
No. Okay, fine.
There we go.
JoJo's Bizarre
Yay!
Adventure started off life as a story about a strapping young lad and his quest to defeat his evil vampire brother through the
Dio!
use of magical sunshine karate. It was a fun,
Come on.
weird power fantasy brimming with the eccentricities of its author, Hirohiko Araki, coupled with the man's genuine earnestness.
I love the
for
whole journey of this as well.
and since then has evolved over multiple successive parts, all of which I have already done a video on.
Hell
and
yes.
If you are starting on this one with no knowledge of JoJo, sure, you do you, buddy. But what's so interesting about making a series is watching Araki's approach to storytelling change with each successive
It's different
part.
every time,
So
I love
much
it.
So that by part 5, Golden Wins, things have changed
A lot. Yeah.
Part 5 is unusual in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
While the story of the majority of the first 6 JoJo parts all directly feed into the part that follows, Part 5 is far more isolated.
Yes.
With the events of the story existing as a kind of splinter arc from Part 3, drawing only minimally from the events of Part 4 and having little, if any, repercussions on the story of Part 6.
Oh, really? Okay.
Part 5 is also one of my personal favorites.
It's boss.
Featuring some of the most compelling characters, battles, and themes
Bucciarati.
of the entire series thus far. And to explain why that is, we
Giorno,
are, of
Giovanna.
course, going to start with our brand new JoJo, Giorno, Giovanna.
Yeah, man.
Giorno is a kind of black sheep of the Joestar family, simultaneously both the son of Jonathan Joestar and mortal enemy Dio Brando. It's weird. The most defining character trait of Giorno is how he's like a combination of these two opposing characters. Like Jonathan, he's capable of incredible kindness and empathy, an empathy that's manifested itself in his power to imbue life to inanimate objects. And also, like Jonathan, is a firm believer in justice and good,
Yeah.
causing him to set out on his quest to become a gangstar and rid the streets of Italy of its
Drugs
insidious
and that.
drug trade.
Yeah, man.
But that gentle kindness is also streaked with something much darker. In the face of those he considers
Oh
evil,
my God,
that
yeah.
kind empathy will give way
Out the
to
window.
a frigid malice. Unlike previous protagonists, Giorno has no desire to understand or befriend his opponents, nor any reservation
Oh
about
my God, that
killing
was
his enemies,
boss.
or even treating them with a sadistic brutality. And it's in these moments that Giorno's
They deserve
calm,
it.
righteous demeanor subside, and we see the traces of Dio that flood beneath. It's that duality combined with his calm, reserved nature that make Giorno an unusual member of the Joestar family. And making him even more unusual is his design. While previous JoJo's protagonists were walking, talking brick shithouses, Giorno's features are soft and slender.
Yeah, it is,
Yet
isn't
these
it?
delicate coifs of curled hair.
Delicate's
From
definitely a
his
word.
effeminate pink clothing to his fragile-looking stand, everything about his appearance goes against that of his hyper-masculine, power-driven predecessors.
muscles.
Even Giorno's place within his own story seems less significant, with him often taking a backseat to
Yeah, he does,
supporting
doesn't he? Yeah.
characters.
The rest of
And
the characters
you
are so
can especially
interesting.
see this in the fights of Part 5, with other characters even commenting on Gold Experience's lack of direct physical strength.
Yeah, oh
Instead,
my God.
Giorno tends to take up more supportive roles in battle, either augmenting the abilities of his allies, taking action that will increase their morale, or healing their wounds. Although technically he's not actually healing them, he's taking objects he finds lying around, turning them into replacement organs, and stuffing them inside his friends. Part 5's really weird. And to show you what I mean here, let's take a little look at the number of battles each Jojo wins in their respective parts.
Oh, okay.
But first, to keep things tidy, here's some qualifiers. 1, fights have to be actual fights with momentum swinging back and forth.
Right, okay.
As opposed to a
Just
straight
one-sided.
beating. So
Right.
Jonathan stomping a bunch of thugs in an alley
Does
does
not
not
count.
2, I'm only counting fights without significant involvement.
Oh, right, okay, so it's
from
just
any
one-on-one.
of the protagonist. And 3, the victory must be decisive with zero ambiguity, i.e. one party must be incapacitated by its end.
Right.
And if we take those factors into account, it looks like this. Jonathan wins 7 fights, Joseph wins 5,
Huh.
Jotaro wins 11,
Yeah, he had a lot of them.
Josuke wins 6,
A lot even, I don't
and do you
know.
know how many Giorno wins? 1, a single fight against the automatic stand user Babyface in episode 22.
Oh.
You could
Huh.
stretch it to 2 if you want to count Luca in that, but that guy's special ability is that he owns a shovel, and he's more a speed bump.
Leaky eye Luca.
And what
Yeah.
makes interesting about this is you can see a distinct shift in how Araki uses his protagonists. Jotaro was the center of his own universe.
Yes, he
the
was. He was a
ultra-powerful, invincible
powerhouse.
badass who was the solution to everyone's problems. But that approach softened significantly in Part 4 with the comparatively less powerful Josuke and its increased focus on its supporting cast, with that concept being taken to a logical extreme in Part 5. Giorno is not the center of the universe in this story and is far from the invincible badass that Jotaro was. And because of all these factors, I think Giorno lacks some of the immediate appeal of his predecessors. In fact, in a poll
He's a character that grows
Twitter,
on
out of
you.
nearly 11,000 votes, Giorno was voted the least popular
favourite, yeah.
Jojo out of parts 2 to 5 with only 13% of the votes. Despite Part 5 being voted the second most popular part
series,
in
yeah,
the
so it's not
previous poll.
to
Now
do with the
granted,
character.
11,000 people is a relatively small sample size compared to the Jojo fan base as a whole.
Still a decent number,
and the only people who voted...
I was wondering why he was doing this poll on Twitter.
Follows me on Twitter, meaning they were all cool and beautiful, but it did give some weight to something I've experienced only
Yeah.
anecdotally up until
I
this
voted on
point,
both of
and that
those.
is that people tend to be more dismissive towards Giorno as a main character than they do the other Jojos, and on the surface, I get it. He's not as entertaining as Joseph, as
He's more
as
of a
Jotaro,
complex
or as
character than everyone else, I
Josuke.
suppose.
But I also think looking at Giorno like this kind of misses the point of his character, and in a larger sense, Part 5 in general. Giorno is not written to exist in isolation, but as part of a larger whole. And by giving him a calmer, more subtle nature, reducing both his power and his importance within the story, what it does is allows the supporting cast to step forward and take up those roles.
Bucciarati had a massive
that's
role in it,
important
man.
because Part 5 isn't a narrative about any one singular character, but a story of relationships.
Oof.
Think about this. The cast of Part 3 were all tied together by their mutual goal of destroying Dio. The cast of Part 4 by their proximity of living in the town of Morio.
Yeah.
And so, the question is, what is it that ties the cast of
Together
Part
in Part 5,
together? And to begin to answer that, let's take a little trip into Giorno's past. Estranged from his father Dio, Giorno's mother was forced to raise him by herself, but unwilling to give up her youth, she often abandoned Giorno for long stretches of time, leaving the little boy alone, isolated, and uncared for, and would eventually even bring a violent stepfather
Yeah,
into
get
their
beaten,
home,
yeah.
trapping Giorno in a childhood of loneliness, isolation, and abuse, until one fateful day when a chance
Oh, the
encounter
gangster
with a member
dude.
of an organized crime syndicate results in the mysterious man becoming Giorno's watchful guardian.
Well, I thought that was amazing.
Whose unspoken care would pull Giorno from his isolated existence, giving him the strength to grow and become a stronger, better person. This story is not unique to Giorno, but a thread that runs through the lives of each of the supporting cast. Mista, Abbacchio, Narantia, and Fugo are all characters who have in some way been
Really
abandoned
bad
and betrayed by
backstories,
those who
man.
owned them. From Fugo suffering sexual abuse in the hands of his college professor,
Yeah.
to Abbacchio being forced out of the police force in disgrace, to Mista's unjust imprisonment over a false self-defense charge. Each one of these characters having at one time lost their place in the world and started on a
And they
path
found
that
it
was
through Bucciarati, man.
until, just like Giorno, the kindness of another person pulled them from that path and saved them from that ruin. But unlike Giorno, This time, that person would be Bruno Bucciarati.
Such a
Bruno's
cool man.
parents divorced when he was a young child, and when asked who he would rather live with, he chose to stay with his
dad,
father,
yeah.
not because he preferred him, but because he knew the
He
man
needed
would be
him.
unable to cope at the loss of his wife and son,
Yeah.
while his mother would likely go on to remarry and have another
And she'd be
family.
fine, yeah.
And this is the kind of person that
I was like,
Bucciarati
God damn it,
is,
man.
filled with empathy and compassion for those around him, and particularly those that have been cast off by society. And this is what brings him into the lives of the other characters, finding each one of them at their lowest point and saving them from a life of misery by showing them the love and friendship that's absent from every other facet of their lives, as he gives them new purpose as a member of the squad. Bruno believes in Mista, Fugo, Abbaccio, and Francia.
He does.
He sees the good in them where no one else did, and because of this, they have developed an intense loyalty and affection.
Oh, yeah,
for
they'd
him.
do anything for him.
And so the answer as to what binds these characters together is simple. It's each other. While Part 4 saw major improvements in Araki's ability to write believable, compelling characters, it's in Part 5 when we see him develop the ability to convey the
Relationships between them is
exist
such
between
amazing.
these
They have
characters.
such cool dialogue with
Bruno's
each other.
squad feel like a family, and that's the family that Giorno is brought into after a chance encounter with Bruno. The two discover that they have a shared goal: to expose the dangerous anonymous boss of El Pasión, defeat him, and rid the organization of its drug trade once and for all.
Not an
Setting
easy
the
task.
journey of battle and espionage across Italy as they attempt to gain the favor of the boss by delivering him his estranged daughter,
yeah.
while also withstanding attack from all sides from the other side
Interesting
of El
stand
Pasión.
uses in this as well, my god.
Where Part 5 really starts to come into its own is where this increased focus on relationships begins to change the dynamic of the stand battles. While the first half of the series consists mostly of one-on-one encounters designed to introduce us to each individual members of the squad, about halfway through, that focus shifts to multi-person stand battles.
Yes, it does,
While
yeah.
Jojo has dabbled in this kind of encounter before, it's never been to this extent or done this well. With our heroes now having to team up to take on teams of stand users, or combine their powers to take down one hyper.
That was class how they had to
And
fight
where
him.
this gets really fun is how different characters' abilities can synergize to produce surprising effects, like Giorno imbuing Mista's bullets with life, giving them secondary functions after they've hit their targets.
Oh my God, so
This also means that directly less powerful stands can now become feasible,
Powerful, yeah.
like Tiziano's talking head, a stand that attaches itself to the target's tongue, causing
Yeah,
them to
makes them say things.
whatever they mean to.
Yeah.
Not a powerful ability by itself,
But
one that becomes very dangerous when coupled with the more directly offensive stands like Squallow's Clash.
It's amazing.
Talking heads
Don't go over there.
to sow chaos among the
When
ranks
they
of their
needed to.
enemies as their communication is disrupted,
Basically,
and
yeah.
they struggle to both understand and communicate how and from where they are being attacked. Squallow and Tiziano show something else about Part 5, and that is that the concept of relationships is not just reserved for our heroes, but is also
For the
a
villains.
large part of the enemy stand users. We can tell from how Squallow and Tiziano act around
That they
each other
like
that they
each
are
other.
most
Yeah.
likely romantically connected. A possible reason their stands work so well together
It's
being
because of that.
because of the bond that has formed between them.
Makes sense.
You can see relationships like this everywhere in Part 5, and in particular
Oh my
in
God, that group.
Risotto's Hitman squad.
Yes.
The enemy group of stand users also attempting to expose the boss. When one of their members is killed, we see the others attend his funeral, and it's a small touch,
two
but it's
members,
also
isn't it?
like, oh shit, this isn't just a collection of isolated bad guys, but a group
There was two
of
members that
people who
died.
genuinely care about each other the same way Bruno's squad does, with there being even more pronounced relationships that exist between its individual
One was cut up into
members.
bits and the other guy was,
implied
like,
relationship
choked
between
on his-
Gelato and Sorbet,
There we go.
the weird sub-dom thing going on with Chocolato
Yeah,
and
they were
Secco,
weird, but they weren't part of that
my
group, yeah.
personal favourite of these relationships, which also heavily contributes to one of the best fights in all of Jojo, is the fraternal bond between Prosciutto and Pesci. Prosciutto and Pesci are two enemy stand users introduced around the midpoint of Part 5.
Oh, the fish hook.
And part of what
yeah.
makes the encounter with them so compelling is their relationship and how it changes the dynamic of the fight. Out of the two, Prosciutto is the veteran, a hardened mafioso who kills as naturally as he breathes. But Pesci, on the other hand, is the younger and less confident,
A little bit hesitant.
often unsure of what step to take
There we go,
next, and in the eyes of Prosciutto, lacking the resolve of a true gangster. A failing Prosciutto frequently admonishes him for. The exact nature of the relationship of the two is unclear, Pesci referring to prosciutto as his aniki, which could mean brother, but could also mean, like, bro. But
Right.
regardless, what's important is that there is actually a warmth between them. While prosciutto frequently grows frustrated with Pesci, he still believes in his younger aniki. Prosciutto, keen to drive the gangster, he knows Pesci can be.
You can do
While
it.
prosciutto is Pesci's hero, viewing his aniki with an older brother like awe, and that bond is reflected in their fighting style. Prosciutto using his stand The Grateful Dead to gradually age his
everyone, yeah.
opponents, while Pesci attacks more directly with his fishing rod stand Beach Boy,
Absolutely
designed
class.
to keep attackers at bay, allowing Grateful Dead to slowly
Keep doing
eat
its
away
thing,
their life
yeah.
force from a distance. And these are the tactics that allow the two to pin down Bruno's squad aboard a speeding train. But just when it looks like victory is in sight, disaster strikes and prosciutto is killed, leaving Pesci
Alone, yeah.
whose despair awakens within him a new resolve. The loss of his aniki driving Pesci to become the killer his brother
Always wanted him to be, yeah.
transforming him into a far more dangerous opponent, which both drives up the intensity of the battle's climax, but also imbues the encounter with a tangible sense of emotion. In the same way Mista and the others believe in Bruno and look up to him, Pesci believed in prosciutto,
Yeah.
so his loss is a painful experience that foreshadows events to come. And it's this kind of focus on the emotions and relationships of the characters that give the battles of Part 5 their heart and edge. The battles of Part 5 are also where we can see another of the series' major strengths, and specifically the strength of the anime adaptation. This is the reason I
Excuse
felt
me.
comfortable leaving /read out of this video title, as the anime does so much to elevate the story of Golden Winds to the point that
Right,
it's
I've not
the
read the manga,
first
so I can't
time
really say.
I'd really recommend an anime of Jojo
Over the manga? Oh.
Although it should be noted that at this point Araki's ability to create manga were still developing, with his best work still ahead of him.
Right.
The anime is beautiful, falling somewhere between
It
the
looks so
Araki
good.
visual
It's
designs of
so
Part 3
good.
and the stylistic, saturated pop art of Part 4.
Yes.
David Productions doing
Pop art is
fantastic
definitely
job
the
translating the
descriptive
complicated
word
designs
for
of
it.
Part 5 into animated form, while retaining all the harsh line work and thick shadows that make Araki's art style
It looks so
distinctive,
good.
bringing to life a gorgeous depiction of sun-drenched Italy, the warm, saturated hues capturing the atmosphere and climate of that country beautifully. And it's not even just visual. The music is phenomenal.
Yeah, the
Each
sounds,
stand user now
everything.
has their own theme music, which helps add to their individuality. Some of these tracks even directly mirroring that stand user's ability, like how Moody Blues Rewind is conveyed audibly through crunchy VCR distortion.
Right. That's
It's all like a
class.
player, Warner Brothers will sue me.
Yeah,
I can
true.
talk a lot about all the little touches that make Part 5's anime great. I mean, just look at the insanity happening on screen. This was taken from just 4
God, the
panels,
dance
but
routine.
what really
Oh, wow.
elevates it to me is how it leverages the strength of animation to bring new life to its battles, and in particular, the stand abilities that drive them. Many of the stand abilities in Part 3 were quite simple to understand.
Yeah.
So Platinum punches hard, Magician's Red shoots fire,
Fire,
Gold stops
yeah.
time, and Death 13 is Freddy Krueger. Most stand
Yeah.
abilities can be explained in just a few words, but
But
that complexity
it's-
increased in Part 4.
And then Part
with less
5.
direct stands like
Jesus.
Lock and Heaven's Door. And by Part 5, that complexity has increased even further.
Bam.
Stands like Gold Experience,
Rank it up to
Notorious
11.
B.I.G., and one other that we will get to. The advantage of the anime is it's able to recreate these more nuanced abilities in motion and thus capture the subtleties of their abilities in a way that is much easier to understand than in a manga.
I suppose so,
For
yeah.
example, take a stand like Black Sabbath, who is vulnerable to sunlight and whose strength increases when
In
in
the
the
shadows.
shadows. Meaning that the time of day, position of the sun, and how the shadows
Really
are
affects how he
falling
works.
are all important mechanics in understanding and appreciating this encounter, but also all aspects that are difficult to convey in the cramped pages of a comic. A problem that the anime avoids, utilizing color design, wide open landscape shots, and dynamic camera movement to bring the specifics of this battle to life. And the result is the battle with Black Sabbath comes alive in a way that it just kind of doesn't in the manga. There are multiple examples of this throughout Part 5, where abilities and scenarios are easier to comprehend in motion than they are in panels, but none more so than King Crimson.
Oh my god.
King Crimson is a stand so strange and difficult to understand that it has long made its way into the hallowed halls of Jojo memedom. And that
It
was
just
at least
worked.
until the anime.
Sweet.
King Crimson's ability is to erase time. And to
Yeah.
explain what that means and to convey how the anime and manga handle it differently, I need to first illustrate how it works without using either, so hello. Let's say King Crimson uses his ability to erase time right as I'm drinking a glass of water. If we break this action down into 3 segments of time, we can see that there's me raising the glass to my mouth, me drinking the water from it, and me lowering the glass.
Yes.
And let's say it's this middle 3-second chunk that King Crimson decides to erase.
So it's just raising
now,
the glass
from my point of view,
and
I
lowering
would raise
the
the
glass.
glass to my mouth, and the next instant, the glass would be down by my side, with me retaining no memory of drinking the water, just the experience that I was about to, and then
didn't
it
have.
was already done. So if we look at this happening on a timeline, what's happening is that King Crimson has essentially erased this middle chunk and slid these 2 remaining
Together.
4-second chunks together, causing a skip in time that leaves me shocked, confused, and open to attack. Where this gets even more complicated is that King Crimson also has the ability to see 10 seconds into the future, allowing him to react to his opponent's actions before they actually happen.
Right.
Meaning he's basically fucking invincible, using his powers to foresee his opponent's attack, repositioning to an advantageous scenario as it
Erasing
leaves
that
his opponent's
thing.
experience of those actions happening, and then striking. As for whether this instant of erased time actually happens, I don't know. It seems like there's 2 contrasting explanations in the manga, and I've watched so many videos on it, and I just don't... So let's just ignore that part and focus on both how the manga and anime depict this erasure of time. The problem with trying to show King Crimson's ability through comics is that it's asking us to accept an objective erasure of time in a medium where time is subjective.
Yeah.
In other words, whenever we read a comic, a fundamental part of the experience is accepting that we're not just looking at a collection of static images, but a sequence of events. That in between panels there is a flow of time connecting one action to the next. But whenever King Crimson is in use, we are being asked to disregard this idea and to accept that the only instances actually happening that are being experienced by our characters are the moments of time being expressly shown inside the panels. In other words, deleting the implied flow of time
That is
happening
difficult to show in a
between
manga,
panels,
Jesus
which is
Christ.
so confusing and counterintuitive to how comics work, all while simultaneously trying to visually convey King Crimson's ability to see through time.
At least he tried.
It wasn't
My God.
impossible to understand, but it was very
Difficult,
and led
right.
to a large portion of the Jojo fanbase, including myself, having no real idea how King Crimson's abilities work, leading to things like this.
Alright, you wanna know? Fine, I admit it! I don't know how King Crimson works! He erases time, but what does that mean? It doesn't make any sense! You can't erase time! You can't erase time! Fine, you can freeze time and you can turn back time, but you can't erase time! That doesn't make sense! Why does King Crimson work? Please! Please someone tell me! I need to know how King Crimson works!
This is really not
Those
me
are slip
criticizing
balls, oh
Rocky's
my
ability to
God.
draw comics, as much as it is pointing out one very specific area where the medium of comics is less equipped to convey a concept than a piece of animation. In animation, the problem is far simpler, because we now have an objective measure of time
You can
that
see it
parallels
jump.
our own.
Yeah.
So all we need is a simple jump cut and maybe a sound cue,
and
it's like
you know
bang, we
time's
experience
changed.
the exact skip in time that the characters do, without having to go through that dense layer of abstraction that the comic requires. While still one of the more complicated stand abilities to get your head around, it's infinitely easier to understand
Stand
the
through-
anime than
yeah.
it originally was.
Okay.
The advantage to this is more than just making a complicated concept easier to understand. A major difference between the battles of Part 4 and those of Part 5 is the level of violence and intensity. For the most part, Part 4 is pretty chilled, where
Yeah, it
few
is.
notable exceptions aside, battles are the equivalent of high school scuffles, where people rarely die and many of the enemies encountered
Just
later
end up
return
beat up.
as allies.
Yeah.
But this never happens in Part 5.
No, they always end up
Part 5's
dead.
combat feels more like violent wars to stay alive.
My
Bruno
God,
and his
Paul
squad
Rudd
sustaining
stabbing him
massive,
so fast.
life-threatening damage with each passing encounter. They lose limbs, they get shot, and they are constantly snatching each other from the brink of death. The bond between them driving them forward and letting them survive these brutal encounters. And towards the end of the story, it really starts to feel like together they can survive anything. And that is until King Crimson. And King Crimson is violence incarnate. King Crimson doesn't fight, it just kills. His ability allowing him to tear and rip his opponents apart without resistance. And this is the horror of King Crimson, the insurmountable fear he presents. And because of how much more digestible his ability is in the anime, that's a fear that becomes infinitely easier to understand and thus empathize with the insurmountable odds our heroes must face, driving up the emotional stakes of the encounters with King Crimson and thus his stand user, the main antagonist of Part 5, Diavolo. And the beautiful thing about Diavolo is that King Crimson is only part of what makes him such a terrifying.
I saw a pizza in Tesco the
Diavolo
other day, which was
stands
Diavolo.
unchallenged at the peak of El Pasión. But unlike his subordinates and nearly every other character of Golden Wind, there's one key difference with him. He has no relationships. He has no friends or direct contact
Doesn't keep
with
anyone close to him.
Rather, he's cloaked himself in a shroud of anonymity, carrying out his commands through intermediaries, meaning no one has any idea what he looks like, where he lives, or is aware of any shred
She's
of
absolute
information about
boss.
him. Not his subordinates, not his daughter, and to an extent, not even himself. Diavolo existing as one of two alternate personalities trapped in the same body, one of which is an innocent young boy, the other being the psychotic tyrant who maintains control of El Pasión by harvesting fear and terror in everyone beneath him, and particularly in anyone who would dare attempt to uncover his true identity, as did his subordinates Gelato and Sorbet, with Gelato being sliced into 36 individual segments.
Oh my God, in the glass.
And sent to the other members of El
So
Pasión
weird.
as a warning.
That's a
Sorbet
message.
being made watch, choking himself to death in terror to avoid the same fate. To Diavolo, a relationship isn't a source of strength, but an open wound that must be sealed. When Bruno's squad eventually delivers his daughter Trish to him, they're horrified at the revelation that he plans to kill her, and in doing so, severing his final blood link between him and the outside world, allowing him to control El Pasión from the shadows forever. Diavolo forsaking all relationships and intimacy in order to protect himself from the vulnerability that other people bring. And the frightening thing about Diavolo is, I kind of get it. Like, not the killing your kid part, but the other part. Relationships do leave you vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
They are difficult and complicated and painful. People disappoint us. People
They can at
leave.
times.
People die. One way or another, all relationships eventually end, and rather than leave yourself vulnerable to that pain,
Just get rid of it.
it can feel easier to just close yourself off and embrace isolation rather than agony. And this is the deeply human fear that Diavolo embodies, what makes him such a
I tried that,
frightening, relatable
and then I found my girlfriend.
But this is also the
Nah, I'm
kind
the happiest
of
I've ever
beautiful
been.
thing about Part 5. People will hurt you. People will leave, and you will lose people that you love.
Yep.
But maybe that's okay, because for all the potential
It helps you.
other people have to cause us pain,
You go stronger.
they're also the only thing that really make life worth living. The ones who can pull us from the paths we're on, lift us up, and give us the chance to be better than what we are. And in the light of that, the pain is worth it. Where Diavolo turns away from that pain, Giorno and his friends embrace it.
They do.
And all the sorrow and happiness that comes with it. This is what I love about Part 5. it's still Jojo's. It's still this insane spectacle of superpowered death battles, bananas turning into revolvers, and people shooting ghosts at each other. But it's also this fucking beautiful story about relationships, about how we can find salvation in other people as long as we're willing to accept the pain that comes with that. And I think that's awesome. I think that's why you should watch Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Golden Wind.
Hell yes. Damn.
Hey, Magfest 2020. Guess who's a guest? That's right, it's me!
That's
there
cool.
From the 2nd to the 5th of January, and all I can say is I have been going to this con for years.
Gaylord National.
Such an honor to be invited as a guest. Follow me on Twitter for a full schedule of what I'll be doing, and hopefully I'm gonna see you there. Friends, thank you for joining me today. I know this video was a little earlier than scheduled, and the reasons for that should become obvious a little later this year.
That was boss.
I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. Seriously, you guys are so awesome, and I am so thankful that I have the support I do. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so over at patreon.com/supereyepatchwolf. And in particular, this video, I want to thank Micah Ball, Kenshin, Vanessa Ray, Super Slush, and Woo.
I really enjoyed that. That message you had at the end really hit me.
You can also find me hosting
a little bit.
The website of Boss Video Game Podcast, as well as on Twitter at...
Because I spent...
Friends, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
I spent over 7 years not wanting to be with anyone and just being by myself because of previous relationships and how much they hurt. And then finding my girlfriend like 8 months ago. Through her, I'm in touch with my friends more than I was. And I think that's because I'm more willing to let people in. You gotta accept the pain is a thing. And if you can overcome that, we become stronger. And I'm the happiest I have ever been. Even though my mum's been ill. But she's great now, so that's fine. Everything's good. Wow, what the fuck? How dare you make me feel things, Super Eye Patchwolf. I wanted to just enjoy a really cool video about Jojos, but that was boss. There was some really good points made in that video. I'm a bit gutted they didn't bring up the fact that Polnareff's in there from part 3 as a really cool return thing. That was awesome for me. I was like, ah! And then, you know, the thing they did with the stands, and then, which to me added to what Yoshikage Kira in part 4 potentially had happened to him and stuff. Part 5 does so much more than he... But anyway, that was a really good video. I love it. We got it. And I ain't reading the manga. I'm waiting for the anime adaptation because, like he said, if we're looking at those stand powers and how complicated they are and they're easy to understand in, like, moving picture form, I'm sticking with the anime. Thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know if you want to discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. Just all you guys. Damn. Bye.